Story number 1.
Titled, Unforgettable Night. Sarah and Jack were thrilled about their weekend getaway. After months of juggling hectic work schedules, they desperately needed some time alone together. They had booked a quaint Airbnb nestled deep in the countryside, far away from the relentless noise and chaos of the city. The drive was picturesque, with the lush landscape rolling by, and they reached their destination just as the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting an orange and pink glow over the rustic cottage. The house was charming, with its wraparound porch and an overgrown garden filled with wildflowers. The whole scene seemed straight out of a storybook. As they parked the car, they noticed a middle-aged woman standing at the door, waving at them with a warm smile. She was their host, Mrs. Weatherby, who appeared to be in her late 50s, with graying hair pulled back into a neat bun and a friendly yet slightly weary face. "Welcome," she called out, her voice carrying a slight accent. "I hope you enjoy your stay here. If you need anything, I'm just a call away. But I do recommend staying inside if the storm rolls in tonight. It can get quite wild out here." Sarah and Jack exchanged glances, but brushed off her warning, attributing it to the usual cautionary tales locals tell. After showing them around the cozy interior, Mrs. Weatherby left them to settle in, promising to check in later. The inside of the cottage was as charming as the outside. Wooden beams adorned the ceilings, and vintage decor filled the rooms. An old stone fireplace dominated the living area, and the walls were lined with shelves filled with dusty books and trinkets. As Sarah wandered through the house, she noticed an old photograph on the mantelpiece. It depicted a family standing outside the very cottage they were in, their faces blurred with age and time. An odd feeling crept over her, but she quickly dismissed it, attributing it to her overactive imagination. The sun had set completely by the time they finished unpacking, and the sky was a dark canvas painted with streaks of lightning. The wind had picked up, rustling through the trees and creating a symphony of whispers around the house. Jack lit a fire in the fireplace, and they snuggled up on the couch, enjoying the warmth and crackling sounds. They talked and laughed, feeling the stress of their everyday lives slowly melt away. But their peace was short-lived. It started with a faint tapping sound, like fingers drumming on the windows. At first they ignored it, attributing it to the branches outside, swayed by the wind. But the tapping grew louder, moving from one window to another, as if something was circling the house, trying to get in. Jack tried to reassure Sarah, probably just the wind. Old houses make weird noises. But Sarah wasn't convinced. The atmosphere inside the house had shifted, becoming tense and heavy. She felt as if they were being watched. Suddenly, the lights flickered and went out, plunging the room into darkness. The only source of light was the flickering flames from the fireplace, casting long shadows across the walls. Sarah's phone rang, the screen glowing in the dim room. It was Mrs. Weatherby. Sarah answered it with shaking hands, expecting her to reassure them about the power outage. Instead, she heard a voice that was barely a whisper, strained and urgent. "Leave the house. Don't look back." The call abruptly disconnected, leaving Sarah stunned and filled with dread. She told Jack about the call, her voice trembling with fear. "We need to leave," she urged. Jack, trying to stay calm, nodded. They hurriedly packed their bags, their movements frantic and panicked. As they reached the front door and swung it open, they were met with an unsettling sight. A group of figures stood in the garden, their faces obscured by shadows, but their eyes seemed to glow in the darkness. They stood perfectly still, as if waiting. Slamming the door shut, Sarah and Jack backed away, their hearts pounding. They ran to the back of the house searching for another way out, but it felt as if the house was alive, its corridors stretching into infinity, the doors leading only to more darkness. Desperate, they stumbled upon a hidden staircase leading down to a cellar. With no other option, they descended into the unknown. The cellar was cold and damp, filled with old furniture and forgotten relics covered in dust and cobwebs. In the dim light of their phones, they noticed something unsettling. The walls were covered in photographs of previous guests, all of whom looked terrified. Their eyes seemed to follow Sarah and Jack as they moved through the room. In the center of the cellar was an old radio, crackling with static. Suddenly, it burst to life, playing a voice recording. They're watching. They always watch. A chill ran down their spines. Terrified, they realized that whatever was outside had been watching them all along. Panicked, Jack grabbed Sarah's hand and they sprinted back upstairs, desperate to escape. As they reached the main floor, they heard footsteps above them, slow and deliberate, echoing through the house. Gathering all their courage, they made a dash for the front door once more. As they burst outside into the storm, the figures in the garden had vanished as if they had never been there. The storm raged on, thunder crashing and lightning illuminating the night. They raced to their car, adrenaline and fear fueling their escape. As they sped away from the house, Sarah glanced in the rearview mirror. The figures stood at the edge of the property, watching them leave, their outlines flickering in the lightning. They didn't stop driving until they reached the nearest town, finding refuge in a small motel. Exhausted and shaken, they reported the incident to the police, but when authorities went to investigate the airbod, they found it abandoned, as if no one had been there for years. The house stood empty, a relic of the past, holding onto its dark secrets. Sarah and Jack tried to return to their normal lives, but the memories of that night haunted them. They couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, even in the safety of their own home. They never spoke of that night again, as if silence could keep the darkness at bay. But sometimes, in the quiet moments, they wondered if they had ever truly left that cursed place, or if a part of them was still trapped there, watched by unseen eyes. Every now and then, Sarah would dream of the house, of the figures in the garden, and wake up in a cold sweat, the whispers of that terrible night echoing in her ears. Jack, too, found himself glancing over his shoulder, half expecting to see those glowing eyes watching from the shadows. And though they never returned to the countryside, they both knew that the memories of that weekend would stay with them forever, a chilling reminder of the horrors they narrowly escaped.
Story number 2.
Title: The Red Room. Jake and Emily were desperate for a break. After months of relentless work schedules, the couple longed for a peaceful escape from their hectic lives in New York City. On a whim, they decided to look for a last-minute getaway, stumbling upon a quaint cabin listed on Airbnb. The listing described a charming and secluded hideaway in the woods, just outside a small town in the Catskills. The photos showed a rustic, well-maintained cabin with a cozy interior, complete with a stone fireplace, wood-paneled walls, and a large porch overlooking a serene forest. Glowing reviews praised its tranquility and the attentiveness of the host, Martha. Satisfied with what they saw, Jake and Emily quickly booked it for the weekend. As they drove through the winding roads leading to the cabin, the sun began to set, casting an orange glow over the dense forest. The GPS guided them off the main road onto a narrow dirt path lined with towering trees. The air was crisp and fresh, a welcome change from the smog-filled city. They finally arrived at the cabin as twilight settled. It looked exactly like the pictures, a cozy, inviting retreat surrounded by nature. Martha, a middle-aged woman with a warm smile, was there to greet them. "Welcome. You must be Jake and Emily," she said, extending her hand. "I hope you enjoy your stay. Everything you need should be inside. Just a heads up, cell service is spotty out here, but there's a landline for emergencies." "Thank you, Martha," Emily replied. "We're really looking forward to a relaxing weekend." Martha handed them the keys. "If you need anything, just call. Enjoy." As Martha left, Jake and Emily unloaded their bags and explored the cabin. It was quaint and charming, filled with rustic furnishings and soft, warm lighting. The main room was cozy, with a large stone fireplace and a well-stocked bookshelf. A small kitchen was tucked away to one side, and a hallway led to the bedrooms. "Wow, this place is perfect," Jake said, dropping onto the plush couch. "It's so peaceful." Emily smiled, feeling the tension of the city melt away. "I'm so glad we found this place." They spent the evening enjoying a candlelit dinner, playing cards, and snuggling by the fireplace. As they settled into bed, the sounds of the forest lulled them into a deep sleep. In the middle of the night, Emily awoke to a strange sound. It was a faint scratching noise like nails on wood coming from somewhere in the cabin. Still half asleep, she dismissed it as branches brushing against the cabin and drifted back to sleep. The next morning, Jake stumbled upon a locked door in the hallway that they hadn't noticed the night before. It was painted bright red, standing out starkly against the otherwise natural wood tones of the cabin. "Hey, check this out," Jake said, rattling the doorknob. "Must be a storage closet or something." Emily joined him, her eyes narrowing at the door. "That's odd. I didn't notice it last night." Feeling curious but slightly uneasy, they decided to ask Martha about it later. For now, they planned to spend the day exploring the surrounding woods. They packed a picnic and set off along the trails that wound through the forest. As they walked, they admired the natural beauty of their surroundings, the towering trees, the sound of birds singing, and the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze. They found a small clearing and enjoyed their picnic, feeling a sense of serenity they hadn't experienced in months. When they returned to the cabin that evening, they noticed the red door was slightly ajar. Jake laughed nervously. Guess it wasn't locked after all. Emily frowned, feeling a chill run down her spine. "We should have checked with Martha about this." Deciding to ignore it for the moment, they spent another quiet evening together, trying to shake off the strange feeling. However, as they went to bed, Emily couldn't shake the sense of unease. That night, the scratching sound returned, louder and more persistent. Emily lay awake, listening intently, her heart pounding. The noise seemed to be coming from behind the red door. "Jake, wake up. Do you hear that?" she whispered urgently. Jake stirred and listened. "Yeah, I hear it too. Let's check it out." Armed with a flashlight, they approached the door. As they opened it, the scratching stopped abruptly, replaced by an eerie silence. The room beyond was dark, and the beam of the flashlight revealed an old, dusty study with a small writing desk and shelves lined with ancient books. But what caught their attention was the floor. It was covered in reddish stains. Emily gasped. "Is that blood?" Jake knelt to examine it, his face grim. "It looks like it, but why would it be here?" A cold draft blew through the room, making the door slam shut behind them. The sound echoed through the cabin, and the scratching began again, now seeming to come from all around them. Panic surged through Emily as she grabbed Jake's arm. "Let's get out of here!" They rushed back to the bedroom, but as they did, the cabin's lights flickered and died, plunging them into darkness. Emily reached for her phone, but there was no signal. The landline was dead too. Suddenly, the cabin was filled with whispers, low and unintelligible, like a sinister chant. The walls seemed to pulse with a life of their own. Jake and Emily huddled together, trying to stay calm as the atmosphere grew oppressively thick. In the dim light, they noticed something written on the wall, previously hidden in the shadows. It was a message scrawled in what looked like dried blood. "Beware the Red Room." As they tried to make sense of it, the cabin shook violently and the whispers grew louder, more insistent. The red door slammed open once more, and a cold, shadowy figure emerged, its eyes glowing with a malevolent light. In a panic, Jake and Emily fled the cabin, sprinting through the woods until they reached their car. They sped away, not looking back until they reached the safety of the town. The next day, they reported the incident to the local authorities, who promised to investigate. But when they returned to the site with the police, the cabin was gone. In its place stood an empty clearing with no sign that a building had ever existed there. Confused and shaken, Jake and Emily drove back to the city. Later, they discovered that Martha, the host, had vanished months ago under mysterious circumstances. The listing was a remnant from before her disappearance, left online as a chilling reminder of the cabin that once was and the dark secret it hid within its red room. Months later, Jake and Emily were still haunted by their experience. Determined to uncover the truth, they began researching the history of the cabin and the surrounding area. They discovered that the cabin had once belonged to a reclusive writer named Edgar Blackwood, who vanished under mysterious circumstances over 50 years ago. Local legends spoke of strange occurrences in the woods, tales of ghostly apparitions and unexplained disappearances. Some believed that Blackwood had dabbled in the occult, conducting dark rituals in search of inspiration for his writing. The couple learned that the cabin had a history of strange incidents. Previous visitors had reported eerie noises, strange sightings, and unsettling experiences. Many believed the cabin was cursed, its dark past forever haunting those who dared to stay. Despite their fears, Jake and Emily felt a compulsion to return to the site. Armed with research and determination, they ventured back to the clearing where the cabin once stood. As they explored the area, they found remnants of an old foundation hidden beneath the underbrush. Among the ruins, they discovered a journal belonging to Edgar Blackwood. Its pages were filled with cryptic notes and sketches, detailing his descent into madness as he became obsessed with the Red Room. The journal revealed that the Red Room was a portal to a dark realm, a place where Blackwood believed he could commune with otherworldly beings. It was in this room that he conducted his rituals, seeking forbidden knowledge that ultimately consumed him. As Jake and Emily read the final pages of the journal, they felt a chill in the air. The whispers returned, faint but unmistakable, carried on the wind like an ancient curse. Realizing the danger they faced, Jake and Emily quickly left the clearing, vowing never to return. Though they escaped the horrors of the cabin, they knew its dark secrets would forever linger, a chilling reminder of the Red Room and the sinister forces that lay beyond.
Story number 3.
Title: The Disappearing House. The Johnson family was excited for their long-awaited vacation. David and Emily, along with their 2 children, Lily and Max, had booked a charming old cottage through Airbnb in a remote part of the countryside. The photos had shown a picturesque house with ivy-covered walls, a rustic charm, and plenty of space for the kids to play. They were eager to escape the city's noise and enjoy a peaceful week together. As they drove through winding country roads, the GPS led them deeper into the woods, far from any other signs of civilization. Finally, they arrived at the cottage just as the sun was setting, casting an eerie orange glow over the landscape. The house looked exactly as it did in the pictures, but the atmosphere was oddly silent, almost as if the forest itself was holding its breath. Despite the unsettling quiet, the family unpacked their things and settled in. The kids were thrilled to explore the rooms, while David and Emily admired the antique furniture and the cozy fireplace. It seemed like the perfect retreat. The first night passed without incident, but the next day, things began to take a strange turn. Emily noticed that her phone had no signal, and when David tried to use the landline, he found it dead. They chalked it up to the cottage's remote location and decided to enjoy their time disconnected from the world. Later that day, as the family was exploring the surrounding woods, Lily wandered off the path, drawn by a distant sound of laughter. She stumbled upon an old, decrepit swing set that wasn't visible from the path. As she swung, she felt a sudden chill and jumped off, returning to her family. That night, Lily woke up screaming, insisting she had seen a face at the window. David and Emily checked, but found nothing. They assured her it was just a bad dream and tucked her back into bed. Though an uneasy
Over the
feeling
next few
settled
days,
over them, more odd occurrences took place. Objects moved from where they were left. Strange noises echoed through the house at night, and the feeling of being watched became almost palpable. Max mentioned seeing a shadowy figure in the woods, but when David investigated, he found no one. Tensions rose as the family started feeling trapped. They discovered that the road they had driven in on seemed to change every time they tried to leave, looping them back to the cottage, no matter which direction they took. It was as if the forest itself was conspiring to keep them there. In desperation, David decided to explore deeper into the woods in search of a way out. As he left, he promised Emily he'd be back soon. Hours passed, and when he didn't return, Emily grew frantic. She set out with the children, calling his name, but the forest absorbed their voices, offering no clues. As night fell, Emily and the kids stumbled back to the cottage, hoping David had returned. Instead, they found the house dark and silent. Max and Lily clung to their mother, fear overtaking their excitement. Emily tried to calm them, saying they would leave as soon as it was daylight. That night, the family huddled together in the living room, keeping the fire burning. As exhaustion overtook them, they fell asleep, but Emily woke in the middle of the night to find herself alone. Panic surged through her as she called out for her children, but the house responded with only echoes. Desperate, Emily searched the entire cottage, but Max and Lily were gone. In her frantic state, she noticed the walls of the house seemed to shift, the rooms transforming and disorienting her further. She realized the house was alive, playing with her mind, erasing her family one by one. By dawn, Emily was exhausted and broken. She stumbled outside, hoping to find any trace of her family, but the forest had reclaimed the path, leaving her lost and alone. As she wandered aimlessly, she heard distant laughter and saw fleeting shadows among the trees, taunting her. Back at the cottage, the Johnsons' belongings lay untouched, a haunting reminder of their presence. The listing on Airbnb vanished, just as the family had, leaving no trace they ever existed. The cottage remained, ready for its next visitors, its secrets buried deep within its walls. Months later, hikers occasionally reported strange sounds and fleeting glimpses of figures in the woods, but few ventured close enough to uncover the mystery. The cottage continued to stand, a beautiful trap for unsuspecting travelers, its true nature hidden behind charming photos and glowing reviews. The Johnson family had vanished without a trace, swallowed by the sinister house that promised a peaceful getaway but delivered only darkness and despair.
Thank you for watching our video. For more creepy stories, stay tuned to our channel. Like, subscribe, and share. See you next time. Till then, take care.